Great. Thank you so much for the introduction. Welcome to our session where we want to introduce you what the AI Hub is. I will start with giving you a brief overview about who we are, what we do, maybe also why we are doing it. And then I will hand over to my colleague who will do a deep dive into the actual work streams that we are now undergoing. And I think with that, we can already start as to why we think there's actually a need for the AI hub, or where we thought it is good to establish such a hub in this sector. So, as you know, AI is rapidly becoming an important driver of the technical transformation. It has potential for new opportunities to innovate and transform services in design and delivery. However, at the same time, as it is most often with new technologies, it can also introduce some risks and challenges as to biases, or if certain systems with AI are in place with very little or non-human in the loop processes or weak human oversight, which can then undermine human rights and threaten inclusiveness and equity. So that's why we thought we want to accumulate all the expertise that is maybe out there in the sector on AI and support institutions in building the capacities needed to actually govern, design, and use the AI systems responsible and sovereign. So this is why we thought there's a need for us to create the AI hub. And maybe we can have a short glance at AI hub so we understand ourselves as a global partnership that works with governments to support them in harnessing the potential of AI for their social protection systems. And by doing so, we support them, as mentioned, in the design, implementation, and governance of the AI solutions. And we also empower them to advance their own AI journey. And at the same time, we are also trying to build a certain community around AI and social protection because we feel like this is a very sought after topic, this interlinkage of AI in social protection. So we also are trying to create this community of peer-to-peer exchange. What are others doing? Maybe we can learn from certain countries that are far more advanced and then also try to transfer this knowledge to countries and governments who are rather new in this topic. And the AI Hub operates under the Digital Convergence Initiative. We were initiated in June of last year and are a joint effort by GIZ and partners. And by partners, you have here a short overview of who we are working with. So this is a very vast group of partners that we are now collected. And the one thing we're trying to do is that we don't want to promote AI as such, as a technology. We would rather try to be a partner in advising the governments and really collecting and accumulating all the resources and experiences our partners and we ourselves have to be a guiding advisor for them. And we work by these three principles. So we want to be responsible, innovative, and sovereign. By responsible, we mean that we want to safeguard and strengthen human rights. Innovative means we are creating the needed space for innovation and working with institutions across sectors and disciplines, as you might have seen with our partner structures. And sovereign, we want to promote the digital sovereignty of partner countries and ensure that social protection institutions remain in control of their own AI journey within their own political and technical terms. So these are the three guiding principles that we obey by. And now a look at the work streams that we work under. So here we have knowledge sharing, digital public goods, country support, and capacity development. For knowledge sharing, we want to create and share knowledge around AI and social protection. And by that, we also mean that we want to learn from our country support engagements. So while advising the governments and the social protection institutions, we want to collect this knowledge and make it accessible to the community. And this is also what we mean by global expert network and peer-to-peer learning. And under digital public goods, we want to develop and share technical blueprints, standards, and guidelines for the use of AI solutions in social protection. And as mentioned, country support means providing policy and technical advisory services, which my colleague will give you a deep dive in a few minutes. And under capacity development, we want to create materials and training for decision and policymakers. And actually, for that, I can note that we are in the process of launching a webinar series designed to take you on a learning journey with us. So you are equipped to design and use and implement AI solutions backed up by the experience that we have gathered so far. So if you are interested in these, I would strongly recommend you to keep an eye for the AI Hub. And later on during this presentation, we'll also share some links where you can subscribe to our newsletter. And I think with that, I can already hand over to my colleague for the deep dives.
Thank you. All right, so let's start with knowledge production. And I guess that is something where everyone in this room also could contribute. We're always very eager to hear more opinions on what we are currently looking in. And if you have other ideas or questions or topics that you would like to know more about when it comes to AI and social protection, put it in the chat, write us an email, or it's also, of course, up for the question session later on. With that, I present you the 4 foundational products, or now it's 5, that we are currently working on, and we are quite advanced, so we also hope to publish them soon. So in the very beginning, when we set up the hub, we saw that the literature, when it comes specifically to social protection and artificial intelligence, is still quite limited. Like there's a lot of activities going on in health and education, in childcare benefits, but this holistic view on what AI means for social protection isn't there yet. So our approach was to start with foundational knowledge products to really make a holistic assessment on where we are at right now today, what AI means for social protection in the future, and how we can produce knowledge products that are foremost very practitioner oriented so that they are really applicable in the day-to-day business when a government or an agency is thinking about, oh, now there is AI all around me, but what should I do with that? Am I even ready to use it? And if so, what do I actually need and where it is most impactful? And then when it comes to actual implementation, how do I do that? There's a lot of narratives also around that we shouldn't be too dependent on the North high, like the tech companies, that it can be very dangerous to rely on only one provider. So there are so many questions in the room, and there isn't any like coherent knowledge product assembly where you can go right now to and just read in very easy words that might guide you through actual like day-to-day digital social protection business, particularly when you're rather a social protection practitioner than an AI expert, which is most of the time the case. So the products are, starting from the very beginning, our definitional framework that actually tries to limit the confusion of what AI is. We have, for example, deterministic automation that is very much often confused with AI, which is way more adaptive and has other characteristics. Then there are different AI technologies you can apply, and all these different aspects of when it comes to the technology of AI is described in our definitional framework, always focusing on the technologies that are relevant to social protection, of course. The second one is our global evidence review. And this is then going one step further and coming from this typology or definitional framework is actually categorizing use cases that are already out there, which is quite a lot. So far, we collected 99 use cases that are verified with desk research, and we are mapping them. We are mapping them for their use cases, like what this AI technology is trying to solve. We are mapping them on the service delivery chain, etc. So after the global evidence review, we also know about high failure use cases, like what use cases are the most like often go wrong. Where are the biggest risks? What use cases are maybe impactful and successful? So all those things we can learn from this global evidence review. And building on this, we are developing currently also a practitioner-oriented risk framework and a toolkit. And here we are coming from the different categories of risks that are specific to the technology itself, but also to social protection, a bit adapted. However, they are still quite universal because AI as a technology has almost always the same dimensions of risks. However, we included, despite like the data layer, the model layer, the governance and organizational layer, also, for example, the sovereignty layer. Because for us, especially when we're advising low and middle income countries, the technology gap of AI is very, very vast. So we have to really consider the digital sovereignty aspect so that those countries are able to host and train and maintain their models within their own legal compliance environment. And coming then from this risk framework, we're developing a toolkit because depending on the use case and risks involved, you of course also need accordingly to that like safeguards. There might be some use cases where the safeguards are not even that important because it's quite safe, which is so far we haven't identified any of those categories. It's always risky in social protection, but it still depends. It varies. And the fourth is then the data sovereignty piece, which goes a bit deeper into what is actually data sovereignty in social protection. What are the dimensions? What does it mean very pragmatically? Like locally hosting, for example, how to comply to your legal environment or how to comply to an environment that is not existing legally because you don't have any laws to apply to. What else? What can you rely on then? And all these foundational products are, as I said, hopefully published very soon. We will also build on that because they are really big and large pieces, and we will try to tear them apart to make them even more practitioner oriented and learn more from them in the future. And for that, we are really happy about any feedback that you have, any topics that you think are missing here. Really just be very frank and just put them in the chat. Always very happy to hear other ideas. And Honga, we can go on to the second deep dive that we brought for today, which is then about our actual country support and what we are offering. And this is the core of the hub. We are advising governments in a very time-bound and specific strategic manner with everything that comes with AI, like from the policy level until the very depth of the technical issues you might face when you have the questions of which model is applicable to my use case, what kind of data do I need? We are trying to advise on all of these issues. And you see just here a couple of examples that might be necessary. So far, what we're also learning is that the policy layer is very important because most governments have not yet developed their own AI strategy, not very specifically at least, or even the data governance framework is missing. So we regularly, and most probably also in the future, will start with the basics so that it actually meets the value proposition that you're looking for and that it fits into your institutional mandate. However, then the technical aspects, of course, are very interesting when we develop prototypes or help maybe even with already in production solutions. The scope of our support, as I said, is very much time bound. We are no tech company that goes into the countries for months, but we can provide a hybrid delivery service that is then most of the time virtual, but we also do field inspections, of course, and actually travel to the countries with our consultants. And on the next slide, you will see a bit more on what we then deliver within our process. So we are doing this kind of systematically. It's all about quality assurance and that AI is not implemented for the mere sake of it. As Honga said, we don't want to promote AI, but we rather would like to balance the benefits and the need that social protection as a sector is keeping up with the technological developments, because there's also a really, really high risk in it that we are left behind. And on the other hand, we would like to address actively all the risks that come with it so that if we use AI, it is successful or at least not harming human rights and the inclusion of the systems. So we have set up a systematic intake process to address all the risks that already come with it and to ensure that when the project is then implemented here in the lighter blue stage, in the second stage, is actually scoped very well. So in the intake and scoping, we start first with a needs assessment of the government. We ask questions of what the pain points are. Then we have two structured scoping calls to ask all the questions coming from the organizational aspects to the data layer aspects, etc., to understand what the environment looks like. And we do an initial risk and feasibility assessment, very roughly though. Then we go over to the actual project implementation after our board or our management group of partners has agreed to the project, because they also get the chance to chip in with their resources and their expertise, this is also one very important point where we lever our network. And then we go over into the implementation process, and do always also quality assurance. We ensure that ethical and legal considerations are met or addressed. And in the end, we do a feedback and evaluation stage, which is very important because specifically when it comes to AI, it's not really done when you deployed any model or a prototype, but either it has to be really then scaled and integrated, or on the other hand, you have to maintain that. So feedback and evaluation is very much important, also because models can vary in their performance over time when it comes to new data, to new needs of the model, etc. So you just can't leave it. It's very important that then also capacity building and knowledge transfer is included. And this we very much emphasize in the last stage. Yes. And then, Honga, I think we can go over to the next slide. We have one more little thing, and just to mention it because it's interesting, and I guess also it will also kind of shape the sector when it will be successful. We are collecting a global use case repository for AI and social protection right now, also with other organizations. And also here we are very much open for input if there are similar activities going on also in other organizations. So we do a global repository that collects verified AI use cases, for example, with ESA and the World Bank right now, but we are also talking to other organizations already that have similar interests. And the purpose is to kind of publish on the DCI website a world map where you can deep dive into different AI use cases that are somehow very orderly categorized and assessed. So when you are a government, for example, or an international development organization, and the government is approaching you, you can look what AI is already looking like in production or in development, etc., like depending on where the project is currently, and what the why is of the AI deployment and what it has had on an impact on the organization. So we would like to describe not only the technology that was used by a government, but also the organizational implementation environments, like how the decision-making processes behind that looked like, what stakeholders were engaged, what kind of data was used for the model. Is the model maybe an open source model? Is it proprietary? Like which companies were involved? Like all those questions will be, in an ideal world, collected in this world map. And right now we are working on harmonizing our AI typology and our criteria and filters with the other organizations, that we all have the same view on what AI means for social protection and what kind of use cases exist and how to map them across the service delivery chain. And after that, we then actually collect the use cases. Here we're already very much advanced. And we have different tools or means to do that. For example, ISA is doing the TechBite project, which is basically about surveys, doing surveys with governments. We ourselves did a lot of desk research for that with our consultants. And then there is also collecting like hands-on country experiences, for example, as the World Bank does with their projects. And then we put that all together. And this is then also the output. Yes. Honga, I think if I hadn't missed anything, I can give over to you.
Exactly. So with that, I think we would close our short presentation about the AI Hub. And at last, we would share some links, which my colleague will post now in the chat, where you can reach us, where you can stay updated on the products, the knowledge products that we just mentioned, or how you can reach us if you want to actually submit a request for our country support work stream. And also, I would, if you want to be updated about our knowledge product, I would urge you to subscribe to our newsletter on the DCI page or follow us on LinkedIn, because we're actually quite active and keep track on posting what the latest news there. So with that, thank you very much for your attention. And now we would be very happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Honga and Franziska, for that presentation. Have a question in the chat box from Sir Nirmal. Does country support programs only have to be in the area of social protection?
Yes. So we would go as far as health financing, and we actually also have a project in that area. But despite that, it's about social protection in the sense of mostly also social assistance, actually. But we also would do insurance, of course.
We have another question. Are there any prospect initiatives from the hub in Asia Pacific?
Yes, actually, we do have one country that we are just started advising there. But Christine, maybe also if you would like to help me a bit on about the background of the question, I can tell you also a bit more.
Hi, actually, the question is yeah, just to know if there are any ongoing initiatives because the network is in Asia, so we're interested to know what current activities or future plans that you might have in the region, or if you're also open to share about your experience in the country that you've um, mentioned, or perhaps working with the governments for their AI roadmap or in other things. Thank you.
Thanks for the explanation. So I fear so far our focus is mostly on African countries. So right now, no, but we are also very interested in that region. So if there is, for example, any government or like any touch point you think that might be also something for us, please let's connect and see. Maybe we can start also an engagement there. And we
Yes,
have
thank
also some core countries of the DCI in Southeast Asia, for example, where also in the future some engagements might be very much possible.
Actually, the question from Anis is also connected. So his question is, while Indonesia is not part of the DCI core country, is there any possibilities for collaboration with any entities or organizations from Indonesia?
Yes, so we can advise every country in the world that is not on the restricted list of the German government. So definitely. And we are also looking for more countries to advise. So if there's the chance to get help through this network actually and for these people in the room to level a bit of more attention and requests that could come in, we would be also yeah, very appreciate that. So if you could connect us or talk to your maybe government counterparts, etc. We can also, yeah, of course, support with more information about the nature of the requests, etc. If that would be the need.
Yeah,
And I
and
think,
maybe just to
yeah,
sorry.
no, Honga, you go on.
No, I was just wanting to highlight because I felt that the question were more or less asking if we have like a certain limitation to a region or to core countries, DCI core countries. Our country support from the AI Hub is worldwide. So as Franziska just mentioned, any country which is not on the restricted list can approach us. So please feel free. We are like a worldwide help desk, so to say.
Thank you, Franziska and Honga. We have another question in the chat. Sir Nirmal is asking if you have a tentative timeline on the training or resource materials.
I think I can comment for that. Actually, the first webinar that I just mentioned under the capacity building work stream will be on the 12th of March with sb.org. Again, if you are following our newsletter or you should subscribe to LinkedIn on us, then you will also be informed of the links and the promotion for the webinar. And then after that, there will be a webinar following every 2 or 3 months. So this is like the frequency. And then we will have in total 6 webinars, really more or less building up upon each other, which then later on kind of concludes to a learning journey. And we are designing some practical outputs that we can hand over after each of the webinars to you. That later on, if you visited and took part in all of our 6 webinars, you would kind of have a somewhat of a toolkit for yourself in order or in the sense of how to apply AI in social protection.
Thank you, Honga. There's another question. What is the process for governments to engage with the hub?
It's very easy, actually. If you visit our website, there, like on the DCI, we have our own from the hub that is also posted in the chat directly. Otherwise, you just click through. And then there is a help desk form. It belongs to both the DCI help desk and then the specific AI help desk. So it's the same form. You just download and then you fill it out. It's very basic. It's just asking you fundamental questions about what your AI demand looks like, what your pain points are, and what kind of advice that you are seeking. And then you just send it to our email. And after that, we will come back to you or the government. However, we have some criteria. And one of them is that the government is also kind of backed up with local resources. Because as we said, we are no tech company that can come in with like 10 consultants developing a whole AI model for months, but we have rather limited resources. So if there is an international development partner already on site, in some cases, it might be the World Bank or like any other organization that already also knows the systems and is very much like deep into the environment. It's very helpful. So that is one of the criteria. And the other criteria, but with that we then also help, is that it is a well-defined and time-bound use case so that we can actually have a project within like several months and then also finish it successfully. And just answering quickly also the question that just came in with the budget ceiling on the proposal from countries. So no, we don't have any specific budget ceiling, but we do have like 3 packages of scoping our project, which is like small, medium, and large. And with that, we have kind of a natural limitation when it comes to the working days that we can allocate. However, it's not only a negative thing that we have this limit on a certain degree to the working days, which very high is for us, for example, 70 days. It's very big already. But the good thing is that we then have very well-defined projects where we can actually really strategically help the government. So what we can, or what we're trying to promise, is that it will have an impact and then can be carried on by, for example, local partners or by the government, of course, itself. And we're also emphasizing a lot of capacity building and knowledge transfer so that whatever we do there is actually then also sustainable. So just try it out, send us the form or ask like a bit more specific questions on the budget ceiling or the scoping, and we are very happy to help.
Thank you, Franziska. So can you share some lessons or insights from your experience in providing country support in Africa?
Yes, some. So I think one of them is that a lot of governments are already thinking of AI, and depending on their digital maturity, they all have more or less the same focus points right now, and that is developing a sound data governance framework, and it's approaching AI a bit more strategically, particularly in the beginning. So we have some similar traits of these proposals that we are then actually implementing, which is coming more from the strategic angle of first assessing the institution itself and looking for why they should apply AI in the first place. What's the institutional mandate? What programs, social protection programs, do they have? Where are the biggest pain points? What are their means to actually realize AI projects? Do they have the data foundation? The organizational considerations are also very important. Do they have the skills, the capacity, etc.? So this is more or less most of the times. And so far we have a couple of requests. However, we are only existing since June, so it's not like 100 requests I'm talking about. But however, they are all aligned on that. So we first, most of the time, develop now a strategic AI roadmap, and then we do prototyping for one specific AI use case that is most relevant or highly impactful to show them what kind of the technical implementation looks like. We do then capacity development and knowledge transfer, particularly for that application, so that they are kind of set up independently to do more prototyping to test other AI use cases. This is our approach right now. And what is interesting is that it is also very different when it comes to the data foundation. So it's not correlated 100% when you have lower or higher income countries, but it really much deviates depending also on how much the country already focuses on AI. And there are already like some AI strategies out there in Africa. But please, if there are more specific questions on like aspects that you would like to know more about, you can also try me. If I know, I answer.
We have a question from Dr. Julius. Can you share some specific use cases of AI for health financing from other countries?
Only one actually, because so far we received one from health financing, and this is about anomaly detection specifically for fraud. So when the government or the public institution receives the invoices, it's about how AI might help to assess these and see if there is any anomaly or that there might be fraudulent behavior. And for that, we have particularly already AeHIN-openIMIS, of course. AeHIN-openIMIS has a module for that. So to advertise that a bit. And then right now we are also looking in a very interesting use case, but we are very unsure if that will be successful. It's about unsupervised AI models because they have like some restriction when it comes to their data sources. So we're trying to see, which is a very uncommon approach, I guess, whether even unsupervised AI models might help for fraud detection. If that is successful, of course, it might be also interesting as a DPG later on, but so far we don't know if it will be.
That seems to be our last question for tonight. Once again, thank you, Franziska and Honga, for introducing the AI Hub to the AeHIN community. Right, thank you, everyone.